Okay, so this is the key to worksheet 1.5, part 3, and you want to use, for number 1, you want to solve this quadratic equation using quadratic formula. Now remember, the quadratic formula is the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And remember, b squared minus 4ac is called the discriminant, but mathematically we can also call it the radicand. So first of all, I got to make sure that this is in standard form, and it is. Remember, standard form is where you have all the terms on one side, 0 on the other, and you also make sure it's in descending order, which it is. So it's going from largest exponent to smallest exponent. So from exponent of 2, this degree here is 1, the exponent is 1, and this degree here is 0. So it's just a constant. So we got to determine a, b, and c. So a is going to be the coefficient of x squared, so that's 5. B is the coefficient of x, so that's negative 20, and c is your constant, so that's 6. And basically all you do is just plug stuff back into the formula. So we say x equal the opposite of b. Well, b is negative 20. The opposite of negative 20 is positive 20. Plus or minus the square root of negative 20 squared minus 4 times a is 5, times c, which is 6. And it's a good idea to put all these in parentheses, especially this one, because if you don't, you're going to say that's a negative 400, and it's not. Anything raised to the second power is positive. All over 2 times 5, which is 10. Now, also keep in mind that b squared will never be negative, so don't ever make this negative. It will never be negative. Simplifying the radicand, we get 20 plus or minus the square root of. Now, negative 20 times itself is 400. A negative times a positive is a negative, and that's going to be 4 times 5 is 20, and then 20 times 6 is 120, all over 10. So that's going to equal, we go here, that's going to equal 20 plus or minus the square root of, and then 400 minus 120 should give you 280 divided by 10. Now we got to simplify the square root of 280. So let's go over here and kind of figure out what's the largest perfect square that will go into 280. So let's divide this by 4, see what we get. So I'm just saying 280 divided by 4 gives us that. Now this 70, so think about 70 for a moment. Is there a perfect square other than one that goes into 70? So 4 will not go into 70. 9 will not go into 70. 16, and so on, 25. Okay, so there's no other perfect square to go into 70 besides 1. So the square root of 280 would be the square root of 4 times 70, which is square root of 4 times the square root of 70. So it's 2 square root of 70. Okay, so that's going to go where this is. So 20 plus or minus 2 square root of 70 all over 10. Alright, now they're going to ask you to simplify this. So you see this 22 and 10, they're all divisible by 2. So basically you're going to say this. You're going to say 20 divided by 2 is 10. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. And so your answer then would be, in compact form, it would be 10 plus or minus square root of 70 all over 5. Alright, now that's just one way to write the answer. You could also say, you could write this as 2 fractions. Meaning this, you could say 20 divided by 10 plus or minus 2 square root of 70 divided by 10, and then reduce that. So 20 divided by 10 is 2, plus or minus, and then reduce this, that's 1, that's 5, and so you get square root of 70 divided by 5. So that could be another way. So there's several ways. Just make sure you simplify though with what you have. Alright, so that's the number 1. Now number 2, then once you complete the square. Now when completing the square, remember you have to have the variables on one side, the constants on the other. So in other words, and also make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1, and it is. So we have x squared minus 8x, leave a blank, and then say equals negative 8. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. Now basically we're completing the square, you're completing the square on the variables. And so you're going to be adding a number to both sides. So what you do to one side, you do to the other. And so remember the steps. So now you're going to take the coefficient of x, which is negative 8, You can divide it by 2. It's always divided by 2. And you're going to get negative 4. Once you get that negative 4, you're going to square it, and I get 16. And that's what you're going to add to both sides, is this. Now this right here should now be a perfect square trinomial, meaning that you can write as a binomial squared. And so when you write this as binomial squared, when you factor it, you're going to get x minus 4 times x minus 4, or x minus 4 squared. So that's what this is. And remember, this part right here, or this, should be this piece right here. And then that's going to be negative 8 plus 16, which is 8. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do, remember, when completing the square, the next thing you're going to do is use the square root property. So basically, you're going to say this now. Take the square root of both sides. Don't forget that plus and minus, though. And so you get these into each other, square and the square roots, you get x minus 4 equals plus and minus the square root of 8. Now we got to simplify the square root of 8. So the square root of 8, remember, the largest perfect square that gives an 8 is 4, so that's 4 times 2. So the square root of 4 times the square root of 2, so that's 2 square root of 2. And so that goes here. So we get x minus 4 equal plus or minus 2 square root of 2. And then all you do, since this is just an x, all you do is just add 4 to both sides. Combine my terms, and you get x equal 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 2. So 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 2. And again, if you wanted to, you could have listed as two separate solutions. So you can say 4 plus 2 square root of 2, comma, 4 minus 2 square root of 2. Alright, so that's going to take care of this worksheet.